Yo, welcome back to another episode of the Two Track Mind podcast.
What's up?
Dude, you left me alone last week.
What do you mean I left you alone last week?
Yeah, you were on the show. What was up with that?
What do you mean I didn't get no invite? All of a sudden I realized you have a superstar.
Cut from the show. The last weekly update. I'm not talking about the interview.
Oh yeah, you were all by yourself. Yeah, it was pretty good, I guess, but you know, a bit dry without the second personality.
Yeah.
Can you imagine it's just you talking to yourself?
I mean, that's what it was.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I appreciate that a lot of the new listeners this week are probably going to be here because you guys caught the last episode with Dave Pratte from Speed Academy, which honestly, that was amazing to have Dave in the studio with us. And just kind of hearing, his story of how Speed Academy came to be and all the things that they've gone through in the past little while. What you had a chance to listen to it?
Oh, of course. Yeah, it was, right when you dropped it, I listened to the whole thing.
Yeah. What'd you think?
Well, I mean, it's just he's just a real down to earth guy. You can tell just how open he is in the podcast to share so much, right? Not gatekeeping anything, and that's kind of how the channel is. They kind of want to show all like the ins and outs of like building a car, grassroots motorsports, just building, testing, tuning. Just going through that whole process with the viewers. So, I mean, I can see why his channel is so popular. And, I hope his channel continues to develop and evolve.
For sure. I mean, a lot of people in this space that watch car content, like everyone kind of appreciates that their channel following is probably smaller than what it should be.
Yeah.
But I think that just kind of speaks to the type of content that the general audience wants to consume these days for quick hits and not everyone's on YouTube for a good balance of learning and entertainment. Kind of skews more to entertainment. So I think that they're still, for a channel that's been around for a long time, they're still reinventing themselves every once in a while, which is really cool to see, changing up the format, trying different things. So I think we haven't seen the totality of what Speed Academy is going to become.
Yeah,
so that makes me pretty excited.
Yeah, absolutely. And just amazing, really made time for us and, answer questions and just really good,
super open
person in the community, I'd say. Like they are very in the community,
For sure. So yeah, if you're new to the show, really quickly, right? Like you saw an interview podcast as the most recent episode, but what we do on the Two Track Mind podcast, it's everything to do with grassroots motorsports. If you're a car enthusiast and you have any inclination about doing some performance driving whatsoever, and maybe if you don't want to do it yourself, but you're really excited about this space and what it means for like a typical consumer, typical car owner, this is a podcast for you. So what we do is a weekly kind of recap of like what's going on in the industry. Could be a little bit broad about like what new cars are come to market, but the lens and the spin that we always have on it is what does it mean for the enthusiast space? Okay. And in that weekly podcast, we'll talk about the industry. We'll talk about things that have gone viral in the social space. And we'll also try to sprinkle in a little bit of, we call it the HPDE corner, right? Talk about some tips and tricks to apply if you're new or even if you're seasoned, because we've had great coaches in our time of doing performance driving, and we'll pass that on to you guys for free. So what are we going to talk about today, right? Drivers meeting. We're going to talk about the new GT-R. That there's a lot of news coming out about that. So Jay's going to fill us in on the new GT-R. For the Canadians, there may be so the Canadian Auto Dealers Association is lobbying regulators to open up the type of cars that we can have domestically. And while this is about Canada, I think it'll be relevant to folks who are listening from the US and other locations as well, because this could be a trend for what we're going to see, at least what industry and trade associations are lobbying for in the midst of the trade war that we're in. In Gone Viral, we're going to talk about the Slate truck. So every publication is talking about this truck. I don't want to get into the details of it just yet because we're going to unpack that, but it's a very interesting vehicle that's coming out hopefully in 2027. And then in HPD corner, a little bit of controversy, okay? We're going to talk about holding the steering wheel while you're on track. And this is something the two of us don't exactly see eye to eye on because we have differences. So I'm gonna drill you on this a little bit to really justify why you do what you do.
Absolutely.
So more on that in a bit. But let's kick things off with the drivers meeting. Tell me about the new GT-R.
R36 GT-R Godzilla. Okay, so the North American Nissan head has basically confirmed that within this decade, the next 3 to 5 years, the R36 is going to be here. And I think
how long?
In the next 3 to 5 years. So within this decade, okay. Before this decade is over, it's going to be here. And before they were talking about, electrification, the GT-R being, fully electric. They have some prototypes. They've done some testing. And basically they're saying that, after one lap of the Nürburgring, they basically have to recharge the car. Right. And so that's not really that ideal. And honestly, even locally, electric cars aren't even allowed on some of the big tracks, right? Like Mosport GP and, anything at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park.
Yeah, and that's mostly from a safety perspective because they don't have the infrastructure or the training to deal with essentially battery fires at this point.
Exactly, right? And so they are actually going to go to a hybrid, right? And, the first thing I think about is it's going to be kind of like the Acura NSX, right?
Yeah.
3.5 liter probably, V6, 3.6, who knows, 3.5 probably with electric motors. Now, my good friend William over at MTech has just recently purchased a 992.2 GTS. And that car has the hybrid system as well. So it has the, has the 6-cylinder plus basically the electric motor is there to fill in all the torque gaps basically, right? And I drove that car and it is spectacular. It fills in, it's so seamless, the whole system. You think that maybe like a hybrid system would be a little bit weird, a little bit clunky. Jerky, a little bit clunky, but it is spectacular. It is amazing. I know you drive an X5 hybrid. I know it's not a performance car, but I sat in that. You do not notice it. It's super smooth. Like it is absolutely amazing. So to see what Nissan's going to do with Godzilla, like I'm pretty excited because the performance that you gain from it is crazy, right? You add in some torque vectoring. I know they're going to do stuff like that, similar to the Acura NSX.
Yeah,
it's going to be a crazy car. The only thing I would be concerned about is perhaps weight.
Sure.
But I know that, if it's anything like the Acura NSX that I've driven, like that car, even if it's understeering, typically you back off the throttle a little bit, open up the wheel a little bit. But the owner of the NSX that I drove was just like, no, just commit to the power. It's gonna do its magic. I drove it on track, DDT, couple laps.
Ooh.
It is crazy. The way that it torque vectors, the way that it just knows where to send the power, it just kind of pulls you out of the corner in such a way that you have to recalibrate the way that you drive, right? So, the original GT-R from 2009 had some of that already, some of the torque vectoring, some of that technology.
When you say original, R35, that's not original. We gotta go way back for original.
Well, we're going way back for the original 2009 R35. And the only thing that I really see that has changed from 2009 to now is the price. Like it's doubled in price. They put some Nismo packaging on it, but the car itself has not really changed. So going into this hybrid platform in the next 2 to 5 years, we'll see the car. I think it's exciting.
Are there any renderings yet?
No, there are some, a couple, but it still looks like an R35.
Yeah, so my question was, I was like, R35 looked a little bit odd because it was so boxy and it looked big.
Yeah.
Or like a coupe, right?
Yeah,
two-seater.
Yeah.
Now, the thing that always shocked people back in the day was like, oh, but the coefficient of drag is great, right? That's how they designed around it. But yeah, it just felt big.
Felt big, yeah. But I think they need a car, and they need a car like this.
Well, now I say that, but there's been so many generations of other competitors' cars. It's probably not going to look that big next to the BMWs that we're seeing nowadays. So might be okay. Might be okay.
My last comment I'd say is like, I think they're a little bit late to the game.
Yeah.
Right. I think they invested a lot in like electrification. They said the GT-R was going to be fully electric for a while. Now they're saying it's going to be hybrid. But like I said, the Acura NSX has kind of been there, done that, right? And other cars, like they're going to be 3 to 5 years behind the Porsche GTS.
Yeah, and the Corvette, right? And the
Zora.
Vet.
There you go.
Right? Is it Zora? It's called Zora? Something like that?
Zora. Yeah.
That's going to be a hybrid too, right?
Hybrid, yeah. Those are crazy.
Yeah. And then the backdrop of all this is like Nissan corporately is going through a lot of changes.
Yeah.
New CEO. Right. They are kind of on the back foot after what was like that failed merger attempt with merger or acquisition. I don't know. Nissan probably call it merger. Honda may see it as an acquisition. So they're definitely on the back foot. And to pull off a Halo car that has a lot of pedigree and a lot of heritage, they don't want to mess it up. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting. Okay, next piece of news. So the Canadian Auto Dealers Association, right? So it's a trade group representing dealerships in Canada. What they're petitioning for is for cars that meet safety regulations in the EU, Japan, and South Korea, for those cars to be made available for sale in Canada. Now, the rationale for this, in terms of their argument, is basically saying, hey, like, we have just, as Canada, just been kind of piggybacking off of whatever the US regs are, and therefore all the manufacturers just make it as if it was for one market, right? So whatever features the US loses, right? Like, for example, the X5 laser headlights are like a hamstrung version of what is available in in the EU, but because the US has certain regulations, we get to use a US version, right? Plus, there's just variants of cars that we never got, right? Think of like the GR Yaris. Europe gets it, Japan gets it, North America doesn't get it. I would love that car to be here. So why would the Dealers Association want this? Obviously, this is coming off of like what just happened in the review, right? COVID happened with supply shortages. I don't think this would have helped in that instance because it was just supply shortages of like parts, right? Like doesn't matter what cars you're trying to make, if you don't have the chips for it, you're going to be in trouble anyway, right? But of course, right now with the trade war with the US, it makes a lot of sense for dealers to try to de-risk their supply and being able to sell as a Canadian, domestic market. Of course, you want to start importing cars from countries that you have favorable trade agreements with. So I don't know. I'm pretty excited about this. Obviously, this is there's a profit motive and a supply having better supply motive from the dealer's perspective. But this is one of the nice symbiotic situations where I think is actually going to benefit the consumer as well. What's your thoughts?
No, I mean, I just care about like the cool cars, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. The laser headlight and stuff are cool, but like you said, GR Yaris would be really, really cool. Or some of those European cars that we don't get, right? Even like for a while, we're not going to get the Audi RS3, but now we are getting the Audi RS3. But I mean, this could all be avoided if we just adopted maybe some more European standards or whatever. Yeah, like you said, we've just been following the US, but I think it would be good for the consumer for sure.
Yeah. And when I think about this also, if this were to be revisited and the regulators are like, okay, yeah, sure, let's do that, right? Because again, timing geopolitically is pretty good for them to be receptive to this message or this request. I think if this were to go forward, then you would also have to revisit the import laws because I think those are tightly coupled, right? So why can't we then, if you're allowed to sell the new ones, why can't we get rid of the 15-year import? I don't know what you call it, embargo, right?
Yeah.
So then we could just start bringing in cars that previously were available. Again, I just think of the GR Yaris. I would love to have that here.
Yeah, that'd be super cool. But also, like, they have a lot of different engine options compared to what we have here, right? I mean, in European countries, they have smaller cars, they have smaller displacement cars, and they have more options, right?
Yeah, those cute little 1 Series BMWs.
Exactly. And the thing is with like emission laws and things like that, I think it'd be good all around to have some, again, smaller displacement options. But maybe a bigger car like, wagons with like, 2 liters or whatever, right?
Yeah. What would be on the top of your list?
No, we said it. GR Yaris is just such a super cool car. But then maybe when it comes here and you see a bunch of them, But I think, I don't know, maybe some of those like diesel cars that we don't get, some diesel wagons.
I don't know if you're going to be able to get diesels given the emissions problems. But, but so when you look at the comments on social media, it's like everyone's like, bring the wagons, bring the wagons, right? And that's always like, it's a funny thing because the station wagon, when you think of it in like the 70s and the 80s, that is quintessential Americana.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Like the ones with the rear facing seats and everything, wood paneling and whatnot.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of gone away. People have moved like once the SUV came and people just started just driving trucks as a daily, then that kind of went away.
Yeah. Bring it back. Bring back the wagons.
Bring back the wagons. That's a slap sticker right there. Okay, let's move on to Gone Viral. All right. If you follow any car publications at all, you've probably come across some renderings or some articles about the Slate truck. So what is it? It is a $28,000 US truck, 2-seater. After federal incentives, they're basically, people are saying it's like a $20,000 truck. Okay. It only has 150,000 range. It's a 2-seater, like I said. It's one electric motor in the rear, so rear wheel drive. The crazy thing is, you just have to think of this as like the most bare bones car that has or is trying to be brought to market in a very long time. Okay. Like I'm talking no power windows, no speakers, no infotainment. There is no paint on the car. So the car, the entire exterior is, what would they call it? Instead of steel or aluminum, the truck's body panels are molded out of plastic, injection molded polypropylene composite materials. They're just fancy word for like pretty common plastic. Okay. And what they're basically trying to do is like, it's going to be fully made in the US. The factory is literally going to just make this one thing. And although online they have this crazy like configurator, it almost feels like you're playing Forza or Need for Speed and you're just like modifying your car, right? They're not actually going to do many of those things, if any of those things, and rely on aftermarket partners to modify the cars for you. Like I think they'll have like official parts, but they're not going to be the ones to actually install them. They're just going to have like a partnership network to help you do that, right? But I think the main thing that I take away from this is like bare bones, made in the USA, cheap, barely a truck in terms of its functionality as a truck, like 1,000 towing, 1,400 payload pounds, right? And no paint. They're basically just relying on wrapping, which is kind of cool. Like I get it. And I think the claim to fame for this truck right now is that like everyone's talking about, oh, like Jeff Bezos invested in it, and everyone's kind of trying to compare it to what Tesla was at the beginning, right? Which, if you actually think about it, do you remember what Tesla's first car?
Yeah, it was the Roadster.
Right. So they went super high end on the market. They're like, let's build this Halo car for the people who have like 4 cars already and they just want like to be the coolest person on the block with like an electric sports car. Here we have Slate going in the complete opposite direction, trying to make the every man or every person, every woman truck. And their pre-orders are $50 to get on the list, which, yeah, I get the whole startup thing about like you need to get people to commit with their wallets, but like what does that really tell your investors? Like you can't say that those are committed customers for $50.
Yeah.
Anyway, what are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, it's different times compared to when Tesla was starting, right? Like I think they've sort of proven that the electric concept is pretty good, right? In most cases. So, I mean, I think Tesla's going to come out with the Model 2, which is supposed to be, it's been talked
cheaper,
about.
right?
I don't know if it's actually coming out, but it's going to be supposed to be a cheaper version of the Model 3, right? Now, my wife has a Model 3, and the thing is, parts of it are falling apart. I got to be honest, right? The build quality isn't great, and that car is like in the 50s, right?
Yeah.
So if we're talking about a car this cheap, I don't know. I don't know if the actual build quality is going to be there. I think cars cost a certain amount for a certain reason.
Yep.
I don't think the margins are massive, right?
Yeah.
So if these guys are tooling up just to build this one single thing, yeah, there is economy of scale, but they're going to have to pump out a lot of these and just hope that they actually deliver, right?
Yeah.
Because that's pretty cheap for I guess what they're presenting, right?
It's basically, to me, it's like the bachelor pad of cars. You know what I mean? It's like it'll get you by. It's like having a studio apartment where your bed is like next to the stove.
Yeah.
Right. So the interesting thing is like I think it's really cool. Like what like if I'm looking at this as like a potential investor, what I like about it is like they're going for domestic manufacturing in the U.S. In fact, the car is only going to be available at launch in the U.S. and it's probably going to be like that for a while. Okay, so again, timing the market, I think people are going to be receptive to that, given what's going on. People are going to be receptive to a budget car, again, given what's going on. If the market stays depressed for a while longer, not having all these options. So they have a quote, and I kind of believe that they say 70% of repeat warranty claims. I mean, define repeat warranty claims, right? They're saying is related to infotainment, and so if you get rid of it, it becomes somebody else's problem, kind of thing, right? But what I think was really cool about this, like they're really pushing this as like a modder's dream car, in a sense, like a street car, right? So you could get the power windows later if you want. You install your own tablet, your own sound system. You can even literally bolt on. There's a bolt-on kit to convert the truck into an SUV, either like a proper like squared off one or a fastback. The front end looks pretty cool. It kind of reminds me of like the new Santa Fe, or even like the Land Cruiser with the circular headlights. So it's kind of got that for it. And I can see like, you know, a single person having this as their daily, like 240 miles range. Not great, but if it's just putting around town, right? Just kind of looking cool on the road.
See, the thing is, if that's the purpose, I wouldn't have made it a truck, you know? I would have made it like a little, not like a smart car, but like, you know, something for zipping around town, right?
Right, but then don't they kind of address that with the fact that you can literally convert it and add seats to the back?
Yeah.
Like I'm thinking like again, like you have to think about when this hit the planning cycle a couple years ago. Like overlanding exploded during COVID, and people want to get outside, and so like, yeah, sure, it can't tow that much, but you could probably put like a motorbike or a UTV, an ATV on the back, something like that. They probably have like a camping mode. You can, you know, with a truck bed, you can lay flat and just set up a bed, no problem. So yeah, I really just see this as like a car for, you know, a young couple or a single person. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's like a American K truck.
Okay. All right, let's talk about the last segment for today. I think it's just going to be a little bit of a shorter pod because we're kind of recovering from the race weekend.
My neck is destroyed.
Yeah, so for those of you who have not been following tightly, so the two of us were at Shannonville Motorsports Park for the first race weekend of Enduro Elite. We did 4 hours on the Friday and 8 hours on Saturday, and I think this is actually going to be a really good topic for that because Saturday was a super wet race.
Crazy.
It was a lot of steering wheel movement just to try to keep the car pointed in the right direction.
Yep.
Drift mode for my stem, basically. Everywhere, just coming out. So what I want to talk about for HPT Corner is how should we hold the steering wheel? Okay. So when you're getting your license, most people would probably tell you 10 and 2. Pretty comfortable. Good spot. When you go performance driving just to get, I guess, a little bit more feel and stability, we widen the grip to 9 and 3 so that you can be more minute with the movements, right? And so for me, I've always been a 9 and 3 almost locked position driver. And the reason why I do that is if I do have oversteer moments or understeer moments, I can very quickly get back to center without really thinking about it. And when the car really needs opposite lock, like this weekend, what I do is I drop one hand and hold the other one to do like, you know, the trucker spin and then spin back. But that hand is still at either the 9 or the 3, so I know where center is. And I've watched over your clips before of you driving first person. I kind of poke fun at you for it, that you like to shuffle in some corners. Okay? So walk me through that. Why do you do it?
So part of that is the thing is when I'm testing so many different cars, I drive so many different cars. You know, we'll backtrack. Let's start with my own cars. They're set up really loose. They're set up very, very twitchy. Yeah. Okay. And for me to really extract the most amount of performance from cars, I like the rear end to come out. I need to be able to get it either when I lift or power oversteer or whatever. Just throwing it in, getting the rear to come around, getting it to point in the right direction, and then kind of commit to the throttle, right? In a rear-wheel drive car or all-wheel drive car, I like to steer more with the throttle. So get it rotated early and then steer with the throttle. Front-wheel drive, you have to rotate it basically, and then get the front wheels to kind of claw you out, right? Yeah. So when I'm driving my own cars, I always want my hands in the optimal position, right? Which is all when you shuffle, like my hands are kind of always at 9 and 3, right?
Yeah.
If it's like a sweeping corner, like turn one Mosport or something, like big long sweeping corner, I don't do that. I don't shuffle at all. Like I'll just turn the car in, whatever, it's smooth. But if it's like a hairpin or a tighter corner or a faster corner, I prefer the shuffle because if the rear end comes out, I know exactly. I think I have a good feel for where the wheel is, and I can take out that first bit of opposite lock like all the way. Do you know what I mean? I have that control to.
You're never fully crossed up on your wrist so that you have still some angle left to play with.
And the thing is, I don't like letting go of the wheel because a lot of people will turn the car in. They're 9 and 3, right? They'll take one hand opposite lock out in a drift, and then they'll let go of the wheel to let it like center. Right.
Yeah.
Thing is, I drive so many cars with different layouts, different steering ratios.
For a track car, that's for grip driving, doesn't really work as well because our alignments aren't set up for the wheels to return to center like that.
Yeah. So like I drive so many different cars, different layouts, and I need to very quickly figure out what the steering is like, how quick it is, all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I find that there's a lot of slow racks out there that like if you're driving loose. Yeah. And I set up the car loose. I usually add a little bit more tire pressure to the rear just to get the car to rotate a little bit better.
But with a slow rack,
it's hard. It's hard.
With a slow rack, wouldn't you want to be able to move it faster? Like I find the problem with the shuffling is that like you can't move the steering wheel fast enough sometimes.
Yeah. So when I shuffle, I don't shuffle. I'll get it there, and then I'll make sure that my hands are in the optimal position. So I'll shuffle as little as possible, but I still need to do it because if that car comes around, I just go whoop, and then I'm there. Yeah. Right, I'm right back in position.
By the way, speaking of Dave Pratte, he's a known shuffler.
He's a known shuffler.
I've watched his videos, and he'll shuffle. But where did you
pick that up from?
Yeah, where did you pick this up from?
Yeah, so Peter Hansen is one of my coaches. He did like Le Mans. He raced with Ferrari, like factory Ferrari, right? And he runs Peter Hansen International Racing School or Driving School. He's one of the head guys over at the Chandlerville. They run like a race license. Anyways, very fast guy, really amazing driver, especially in the wet. He's crazy, right? That's how he navigates the wheel as well. So when I saw him do that, I started like figuring out like, okay, maybe like why does he do that, right? And similar things that we just kind of talked about. Just he likes his cars loose, like he's drifting around like a Corolla at DDT, right? Just like putting a ton of rear tire pressure in the back and just getting the rear end to come out. And so just having the hands always at that optimal position, that 9 to 3, never crossing over, because in passenger car, in like non-track cars, without, with slower racks, like you're always going to be crossed over in different scenarios, right? So just, maybe a little bit of a shuffle, right? But I know I shuffle definitely more than most people that do shuffle. Yeah.
The shuffliest of the shufflers.
Yeah, shuffliest of the shufflers. Yeah. You just have to be able to navigate the wheel very well. And then, like I said, I like to take that first, if the car is really loose or I'm sliding around, take that first opposite lock up with one hand, and I'm still in that optimal position, right?
Yeah.
The thing that you were talking about, the trucker thing, that feels so dangerous to me. Yeah, that's so dangerous. Yeah.
No, but that's like, I only if I know I need to take the car to lock. If I don't think to correct the car, I need to get it to lock.
Yeah.
Then I'll keep both hands on, because I feel like in the TT, I can almost like, I don't know, with the effective range that I need for that car to correct most oversteer, I still have room when I'm crossing my wrists. It's just Saturday when it was that wet, like needing to get to lock, that was just the fastest way to get I was just like, the TT is like pretty controlled when it's 4-wheel sliding, but it's still in my mind the fastest way to get the steering rack to move. I was just like palm that one side and just like rip it, right? And then rip it back when I feel that the rear end's starting to settle. I don't know. It worked on Saturday. There were a few moments where I felt like I lost center. So after the car gripped up again, it just shot in one direction because I wasn't completely squared up yet. But I don't know. I guess it just comes with a little bit of practice. But if I were to think about the takeaways here, it's you just kind of have to find what works for you. It's good to try different techniques. And as long as you have a rationale as to why you're doing it a certain way and why another prescribed method, while like, it has its merits, it maybe has some downsides to the way that you like to drive and the way that you like to set up your cars. So at the end of the day, I think it just comes down to like, what do you feel most confident with? Maybe there is a inherent like fundamental issue with the way that I drive or the way that you drive, but no one has infinite time to practice and get good at what, the best method is. I think we just have to be a little bit realistic with that, right? So like if you're going into a competition and somebody shows up and say, hey man, you're doing this wrong, I'm not going to go same day switching up something that is so critical to my driving.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you find the time on the sim or something like that to practice different things, but yeah. As long as you can describe why you're doing something and why you're not doing something else, I think you're in a good spot.
Yeah, I just think that crossing arms and like
maybe
your
wrists are just not flexible enough.
No, man. I think some let's say for example, I'm in a radical or something with a fast rack.
Yeah,
like you don't need to.
No, you don't
need to,
yeah.
right? You the car will like a hairpin at let's say a TMP like turn 6, like you can just like you're just like this and then you're back open, right? But for like a Camaro with a it's kind of boaty, has a huge steering wheel, right? To make that hairpin, you need to like cross all the way over. So having that initial shuffle and then coming through and then just opening up, like it's very, very natural to me. It feels good. It feels comfortable. It's very confidence inspiring. I feel like I know where the wheel is, and that's why I do it.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's all the topics I have for today.
Yeah,
a little bit of a shorter one.
Mm-hmm.
What's your next event? What's your next event? Where can people see us?
I mean, are you going to OTA? You're kind of on the fence about it, right?
On the fence. Yeah, I think too many weekends away from the family.
Yeah,
lately.
yeah.
So, and I've been playing a lot of pickleball tournaments.
Oh yeah. So pickleball or that, right? But anyways, I mean, we have the OTA school the Saturday.
This comes
second. Is that May 2nd? May 3rd?
First and second.
One of those days, and the Sunday is a competition day. So both at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. Drivers Development.
Saturday's first, Sunday's the second.
Yeah.
Monday's the third. You know why I know Monday's the third?
Why?
I've got jury duty.
Oh, actually?
Selection.
No way.
There are many reasons why they shouldn't pick me, so I'm hoping I get... Okay, I respect the process, and I will gladly do my service to the Ontario government. But if I were to guess, I don't think they're gonna choose me. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. Maybe I have to eat my words next week and be like recording from a waiting room on a Monday. But anyway, yeah.
Good luck with that, man.
Okay. All right. We will. On that note, we'll catch you guys next week.
See you guys.
All right. Take care.